個好靚嘅英文
介紹下 Michael Hong 上台，好唔好啊？俾個熱烈嘅掌聲。
Would we have Mr. Michael Hahn, the media representative of contactee Billy Meyer, come to the stage, please? Thank you, Mr.
你好，謝謝。Hello.
Hello.
I'm going to, of course, show you some slides and go through things, and you're going to see a bit of a new film. And we will also leave time for questions and answers, because I feel, probably in the same way that the previous speaker did, that it's important to address questions. And now that we are all speaking about the same basic subject matter, let's see what questions you will have when that comes around, okay? So I'm going to see if I can operate this computer. We haven't practiced yet on this. Okay. This is Billy Meyer, Billy Edward Albert Meyer. Yeah, okay. Taken maybe 2 years ago. He's 75 years old right now. I hope I don't have to translate that for you, do I? No, everybody understood that. Okay. So what we have here is Edward Albert Meyer when he was 8 years old. And he had already had contact with extraterrestrial human beings that started when he was about 5 years old. And, okay, so what we have here is a man named Father Zimmerman, a priest, who had been contacted telepathically by the extraterrestrials to prepare him to be a teacher also for young Edward and let him know it was okay to meet with the people from the stars. This is his first teacher, a man named Svath, who was over 900 years old when he started to teach young Edward.
OK， 而呢一位咧就係史花夫啦，呢位外星人咧就教咗佢11年嘅外星知識嘅，而家就係由5歲開始教咗佢第一個11年嘅外星知識。
These are human beings. They're not little green men from Mars.
而佢哋咧全部都係好似我同你咁咧，都係好似人類嘅外形，又唔係一啲好細嗰啲小灰人啊嗰啲咁。
Edward's second teacher was a woman named Asket. That's a drawing of her, and then in the lower corner you see a photograph that may well be of Asket. There is controversy about this, but we won't go into that part now. I should also tell you that Asket took Edward Meyer forward and back in time and showed him historical events. This is Ptah. He's the leader of the Pleiaren race. He's the son of Svath, and he meets to this day with Billy Meyer. This is his daughter, Semyaze, and she was the third contact person for Billy Meyer beginning in 1975. And this is Quetzal. He is also one of the Pleiaren, and he meets with Billy to this day as well. And Meyer has had an amazing life, even if you do not take the extraterrestrial part of it into consideration. He's traveled all over to many countries, 42 million miles of travel through about 40 countries, hitchhiking. In this photograph, he's with Jordanian partisans. He's almost exactly in the middle of the photograph, dressed in Arab garb. Here he is with the palace guards for King Hussein of Jordan. He had also met Saddam Hussein when he was in his 20s in Baghdad, and many other world leaders. And here he is in his Arab dress. He was known as the Phantom in the Middle East. He would bring in serial killers and mass murderers and remove them from the society where they were threatening people. There he is again. And Billy has told me he has never killed anybody. He arrested a lot of people that different police departments in India, Turkey, and West Pakistan hired him to bring in. Then we see him in his cowboy hat with his pistol in 1964 in Pakistan, where he got the name Billy from an American woman who said that he reminded her of Billy the Kid from the Old West in America. Okay? And on the right, he's in India, traveling around with a pet monkey. He was studying all of the world's major religions to prepare him to understand his role in the world as a prophet. This is a newspaper clipping from 1964 in India, and it's important because the reporter saw a whole book of UFO photos that Billy had already taken in 1964. And now we come to a couple of pages of names with some of the extraterrestrials that he has personally met. They are human beings like you and me. As a matter of fact, if you look here, number 19 is Talida, and number 24 is Samyang from Asian space traveling races. We'll say more about that. These photographs were taken in India of Asket's ship. Close up. And here, I'll explain a little about this photo. If you look in the lower corner, you will see a woman. 8 of Asket's ships are in the sky. This woman was the caretaker for a young girl whose grandfather is the head monk of this ashram. And when she grew up, she became a UN diplomat. And a few years back, she came forward and explained that she saw the ships and she met Asket, and Billy Meyer is telling the truth. This is one of the most important photographs, in my opinion, from 1964. The reason is, this is a hologram of the cross in the sky that was made by Asket, and below the cross you can make out someone sitting with a cowboy hat. That's Billy Meyer. And there's a reason why they used this symbol in India with Billy Meyer. And before you hear the translation, I will just tell you this. The reason is that Billy Meyer is the current prophet whose spirit in the past had been the man associated with this symbol, who had been crucified, survived, lived, and died in India. So this is Billy Meyer in 1975 or so, 10 years after he had lost his arm, with his family, his wife and 3 children.
呢一張相咧就係1975年左右影嘅，佢嗰陣時已經要斷咗隻左臂大概10年㗎啦。
And here, a couple years later, this is the way Billy would always go out to meet with the Playaran and take photos, riding his moped, one hand, just a camera, no models, no balloons, no tricks. Now, it's up to you to decide if these are identified, but after 34 years of studying the case, I'm pretty convinced.
經過Michael 佢呢啲30-40年嘅研究咧，佢係非常之相信呢一啲飛行物體係絕對存在。
So, you're looking at one of the most famous of his photographs called the sunlight shot, because we can see the sunlight glinting off of the surface of the or IFO, and the tree branches are slightly in front of it. It's not a model. Look how clear these are.
呢隻飛船咧就圍住棵樹咧喺度兜圈嘅。
有 video 佢。
These are not lights in the sky.
呢啲唔係淨係咁簡單，淨係喺天空見到啲光，而係真真正正一隻飛碟喺你面前。
You can see the reflection of the trees in the surface of the ship.
你可以喺嗰個飛碟嘅嗰個銀色嗰啲反射嗰啲位度咧，見到棵樹嘅反應嘅。可想而知，當其時1979年冇法子做到呢啲咁嘅偽造嘅照片嘅。
This is from a film where Billy filmed and photographed 3 of the craft at the same time. 2 of them disappear and 1 remains in the film. Again, look at the detail of the craft. 1976.
呢個相係1976年影嘅，你可以睇到幾仔細，每一個仔細嘅部位咧都係好清晰咁樣睇到出嚟。
The wedding cake UFO, Andromeda light ship. The people that fly or that are in this, their bodies are mainly light now. These 2 photographs were taken by Billy Meyer when he was inside of one ship, photographing through the window 2 ships outside. One day, Billy Meyer's stepson went outside and went up to his car. He was going to get in it. And this is Billy, of course, back in the 1970s and more recent. And here he is pointing to the hood of the car because Billy's stepson noticed that there were handprints. If you'll look carefully at the handprint next to Billy's hand, you will see 7 fingers. If you look to the far left, you'll see impressions made from the elbow to the palm. These were made by the Trilaner, who are another race who have a very, very acidic skin for our chemistry here. They are too hot to touch. And what must be said is that these handprints, these fingerprints, were etched into the paint and lasted for more than 3 years through all the weather. And Billy offered for scientists to examine it, but nobody accepted his offer. Here it is again, another person's hand. Now, we're going to have a film clip here. Pay attention. Never mind the music, but
嗰啲音樂並唔係由呢個飛碟整出嚟嘅。
watch for the lights. There.
你見到啲光嘛？一閃下閃燈嗰啲光。
Here. This is the sound of the ship as well.
嗱，呢啲聲音咧就係太空船飛行嗰陣時發出嘅聲音嚟嘅。
Watch again.
再留心睇。
These are some of the people who have witnessed the ships. There are now over 100, and these people are part of his core group around him who work to publish the information. These are just some of the different types of craft that the Pleiaren have. And for those of you that are interested, we may have some used models that we could sell you after the show, and you can travel the stars on your own. Billy's photographs were analyzed by photographic experts, and his films as well, including at Nippon TV in Japan. And what you're looking at here is part of a list of scientific experts who have actually analyzed and commented on different evidence from Meyer. David Froning, who's listed first, is an astrophysicist with a top secret security clearance who came to a presentation of mine and told a big audience that whoever is giving Billy Meyer scientific information is very knowledgeable. And Michael Malin, whose name is at the bottom of this list, worked with NASA on their Mars mission and camera development. He said Billy's photographs look authentic to him, even though he has trouble believing that some simple Swiss man could be meeting with extraterrestrials. And there is well over 1,000 pages of investigative reporting on the evidence in the case. We put on ebooks so they will be preserved because these books are now out of print completely. Now, if you look at the photo at the top, you will see that there's a little object behind in the center of the photo, which is a Swiss Mirage jet. They tried to intercept Semyaze's ship. Right now, we're not talking about the footprint down there, which was from another extraterrestrial who was several meters tall, but we'll move on to the UFO. So when the photographs were analyzed, they also used thermography to determine that these were three-dimensional objects that had even different energetic or temperature signatures that could be detected in the photos.
而各項嘅飛碟嘅鑑證咧，工作包括有光顏色啦、能量啦、溫度、電磁量、距離、嗰個飛行嘅嗰個圖源啦、密度啦，同埋紅外線咁分析嘅。
Another piece of evidence took the form of metal alloy samples, and these were examined by a man named Marcel Vogel at IBM. He found that virtually every element in the periodic table was present in the metal, but in discrete form, not just mixed. And there were laser cuttings, machined pieces, very fine with lasers. And he concluded with any technology available to him at IBM, he could not put these together. You should be shortly hearing the audio clip recorded by Billy Meyer.
技術人員唔該 play 一 play 個飛碟。
So what you are listening to is a recording that lasts 26 minutes and has 24 audible frequencies all simultaneously changing through the recording. These were analyzed in 2 or 3 separate professional recording studios in the early 1980s, and they could not duplicate them with synthesizers.
我哋唔好忘記呢一段錄音咧，喺大概1980年代嗰個時間錄低嘅，所以嗰陣時咧唔會有咁高嘅技術可以將32條 track 咧係 merge 埋，去融合埋同一個聲，即係嗰個音帶嗰方面。
They were recorded in an open field. I've been there, and there were 17 witnesses, including a policeman, and people could hear the sounds from 4 kilometers away. Billy Meyer's case, in my opinion, has the best, most abundant physical evidence of any UFO case in the world. But you won't prove extraterrestrial contact through photographs and films. So there is something very brilliant that the extraterrestrials have done in order to establish that they exist and what their reason is for providing contact to us through this man. So this is a long story that I won't tell you, but I will give you the little pieces. I had read information that Billy Meyer wrote. He wrote it in 1975 I read it in 1986 about the connection between A-bombs and ozone damage. But the problem is that it became a new discovery in 1986 when our scientists first published it as the real connection now. Billy had already written about it 13 years earlier when the extraterrestrials told him about it. This leads to genetic mutation and food chain disruption. But Billy had already published that information in 1975. And while he was the first person, when he was 14 years old in 1951, to talk about climate change and then talk about global warming several years later, in 1975 and 76, he was told that by taking the petroleum out of the earth, we are causing more earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, which a scientist from Stanford University discovered in the 1990s. Now, we present in our film, in our new film, As the Time Fulfills, 55 specific scientific discoveries or events that Billy had already written about 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, or 55 years earlier and published them. And I hope you see now that we are moving out of too much concern about the ships they came in and directing our attention towards the reason they came. One of the reasons they came was to teach us a meditation that only takes 20 minutes that we could perform a couple of times a month that would simply help us to become globally more peaceful. This is called the Salome Peace Meditation, and we should know that there are 3.2 billion extraterrestrial human beings who are doing it on our behalf, and we can join in at the same time that they do it. It's from the ancient Lyran language. Remember earlier when there was the display of the star system showing Lyra and Vega? The Lyran people, billions of years ago, were already space travelers, and they already made a lot of war until they became peaceful. And the interesting thing about this meditation is you simply pronounce the words softly or loud, out loud, at your own pace. So the words are these: Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda, Ganiber, Asala, Hesperona. So we can try these words a couple times. Salome, Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda, Ganiber, Asala, Hesperona. We'll do it again. It's so much fun. Okay. Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda, Ganiba, Asala, Hesperona. Peace through wisdom to all beings.
願眾生在智慧中獲得喜樂。
So, what we're coming to here is not as sensational as the UFOs flying around, because that's not the message. What these human beings wish for us is that we can find and develop peace, love, harmony, and freedom. And the very core, the very center of Billy's purpose is the spiritual teaching for all of humanity without any beliefs or separation. Part of our problem is the many prophecies that he has written and published start to become true. We call our film As the Time Fulfills, because the prophecies keep on fulfilling, because we don't yet know peace, love, harmony, and freedom. We're going to have a little bit of this, our film, yes? Okay.
請播嗰個17分鐘嘅片。
It was at the time when the ancient prophecies, foretelling great changes and upheavals in the world, began to be fulfilled. Where it still can be found, the serene and peaceful beauty of nature stands in calm contrast to the turmoil of the city streets. And as the time fulfills, most of the world still knows very little about Edward Albert Meyer, commonly known as Billy, a reclusive man living in a remote rural region of Switzerland. Like everyone else, Meyer has his own ideas and opinions about the events of the day, including about the value of street demonstrations. Today's rapidly unfolding events hold few surprises for Meyer, who'd already foreseen many of them decades before. In fact, on February 3rd, 1948, while most people were concerned with many far less weighty matters, Meyer had just published his first uncannily accurate warnings about the future. When he was just 11 years old, he not only foretold life-destroying ray and vibrational weapons, but also the modern-day electronics technology and the coming environmental destruction that was undreamed of at the time. He foresaw man's early ventures into space and genetic engineering technologies. Again, all of this when he was only 11.
Ich habe das erste Mal, als ich etwas gemacht habe, war 1951. Da habe ich das erste Mal Briefe geschrieben und rausgeschickt in die Welt an Regierungen, an Zeitungen, Journale und so weiter und so fort und habe gesagt, was die Zukunft bringt.
Indeed, Billy Meyer was quite specific. More than 60 years ago, when he foretold the devastating environmental destruction now unfolding all around us, even specifically warning of unnatural climate change. In 1958, in a time of increasingly self-destructive human folly, Meyer warned about the grave dangers of atomic energy and power plants, which more than 50 years later we still haven't heeded, despite Chernobyl and Fukushima, a disaster of such unrecognized magnitude that it will affect the world for generations to come. As the radioactive particles continue to spread unnoticed and largely unreported. As for our use of atomic energy in power plants, Meyer is quite clear.
Atomkraftwerke sollten absolut rund die Welt strikte verboten sein.
What safe, non-polluting sources can meet our growing energy needs?
Die Menschen brauchen, dann müssen sie auf andere Dinge zurückgreifen, wie zum Beispiel auf die Erdhitze. Sehr tief in der Erde drin. Die Hitze hochnehmen und Turbinen betreiben und Energie schaffen, und das ist absolut schadlos. Und das hat keine Rückstände, die gefährlich wären für die Natur oder für die Menschen oder für die Tiere. Praktisch eine Energie, die endlos gebraucht werden kann.
Meyer has his own views about other controversial things, such as UFOs and extraterrestrials. In fact, his claims regarding UFOs have fascinated some people and seemed very unrealistic to many others.
Ja, was soll man dazu sagen? Natürlich, die Leute, die waren fasziniert wegen den Strahlschiffen, UFOs genannt, und viele davon waren schockiert.
We think we know how everything works. If something happens that completely changes that view, we'll be shocked.
I think it would be negative for religions. Some people would reconsider.
Basically, it means we are screwed.
Meyer has also provided more than mere conjecture about UFOs. In fact, he claims that for over 70 years, he's been meeting with extraterrestrial human beings called Pleyarin, who visit him in these ships. Meyer's claims of contacts have provoked intense criticism and attacks from skeptics. There have also been 22 documented attempts on his life, requiring him to take prudent steps to protect himself. As the time fulfills, small groups of people meet throughout the world to discuss Billy Meyer's information and the spiritual teaching.
The whole thing is that the people who use their UFOs to come here, they're more advanced, and they're here to teach us a thing or two. Everything is going to be on your shoulders.
You have to do the work yourself, and nobody's going to do it for you. You have to be self-responsible and work on yourself and really understand what it is to be a human being in the real and true sense and change yourself towards that. That's a lot of work.
Meyer claims to have regular meetings with the Pleyarin extraterrestrials. We asked him when was the last time that he met with Ptah, said to be the leader of their race.
Hier, Moment mal. Am 1. Oktober. Vorher eben am 10. September und jetzt am 1. Oktober. Wer viel da gewesen ist die letzte Zeit, das war Florena. Und den Jana, die sind jeweils sonntags gekommen, jeden Sonntag, weil wir das Namenbuch korrigieren mussten. Und da habe ich ja keine Ahnung, wie die Namen geschrieben sind und ausgesprochen sind.
For a lot of people, religion is still probably easy and in the back of their minds, even though they may not be a member of a church, or that they still have this desire that there is some angel that's watching over them, or whatever, that some higher power is going to save them or look after them.
From the viewpoint that what was called the one God, that they had different names for and different descriptions for, were not just one being, it was several different extraterrestrial beings who had more knowledge, more power, and people couldn't understand the knowledge and the power, and so they thought, oh, this must be the God. They were saying they were gods, like some of them, like the Jehovah type.
When I was younger, that's one of the things I thought, well, this God must be rather schizophrenic, because he used to have different personalities. One time he's loving, the next time he's just a psychopath.
Semyaze speaks of the creation, the actual all-powerful true source and sustainer of all that exists in this universe, and which created the evolving human spirit, the eternal, immortal spark of life, which is a tiny holographic piece of the creation itself, a unity containing a balance of both positive and negative, necessary for evolution. Contrary to the false teachings of the religions, each and every human being is born absolutely free from any so-called sin. In 1981, the Pleyarin warned Meyer about a danger from space that our planet will face from what they called the red meteor, which our scientists only officially discovered in 2004 and named asteroid Apophis. Meyer was told that it would impact the Earth with certainty unless our scientists come together and deflect it from its course. After we publicized this information, the chief of Russia's space program invited NASA, the European Space Agency, the Chinese Space Agency, and others to join an international project to deflect the Apophis asteroid from a possible collision with Earth in 2036, just 24 years from now. Of course, those in positions of power often do things that the public never knows anything about, as Billy Meyer suggests here.
Wegen Apollo 11, da habe ich dann sowieso etwas ganz Besonderes. Die Apollo 11 Mission, das war ein Schwindel von A bis Z. Ist überhaupt nicht passiert. Die Mondlandung, der Mondflug ist nicht passiert. Das ist alles schaustellermäßig, filmmäßig ist das aufbereitet worden und nachher überspielt worden in Houston Zentrum, wie heißt das? Airspace Center, oder wie das heißt.
We asked Billy Meyer this question regarding civil war in the United States, as mentioned in the Enoch Prophecies.
Das ist nicht nur in Amerika so, das ist rund um die Welt so. Das ist so und es schwappt auch über nach Europa und auf andere Länder. Das meiste, was wir in Europa haben, kommt immer von Amerika drüben. Das Gute wie das Böse.
Prophecies and predictions are made with calculations and projections based on known data through the understanding and application of the laws of cause and effect and the resulting interactions. Generally speaking, a small cause creates a small effect, larger causes create larger effects, which themselves are causes, and so on. Like the other true prophets before him, Billy Meyer mastered these abilities through consciousness-based powers to accurately foretell future events. The following segment contains what we refer to as prophetically accurate information that was derived by time travel to see the actual future events or by observing previously unknown things that would only be officially discovered by our scientists much later. In 1978, Semyaze told Meyer that Io was the most volcanically active body in the Jupiter system. Scientists were surprised to discover this phenomenon in March of 1979, 5 months after Meyer published it. Meyer stated that the Egyptian pyramids were built by free people and artisans, precisely what archaeologists discovered in 1991, 3 years later. In 1991, Billy Meyer was told that a 5,100-year-old Iceman mummy would be discovered in the mountains and that he died from the results of a fall and an arrow lodging in his back. The mummy was discovered several months later, and in 2001, scientists determined that he died from a skull injury and an arrow in his back. In 1975, Billy Meyer's third extraterrestrial teacher, Semyaze, told him that the deadly consequences to all life on Earth from increased damage to the ozone layer was related to ozone-destroying chemicals, such as bromine gases, as well as those that occur from internal combustion engines and atom splitting. In 1988, scientists confirmed the relationship between atom bomb testing and damage to the ozone 13 years later. In 1992, scientists reported that the increase in ultraviolet light resulting from damage to the ozone layer was in turn damaging phytoplankton and consequently the entire food chain 17 years later. Why haven't we been thinking deeply about Billy Meyer's vitally important scientific information? And now, as the world slowly learns more about Billy Meyer, as we go about our busy lives, we still have the opportunity to awaken and heed the prophetic warnings and to rewrite what will otherwise become a regrettably tragic future history. These are our choices to make, if we want to, as the time fulfills.
Das mit den Illuminati, das ist reine blanke Verschwörungstheorie. Es gibt heute die Illuminati noch, aber das sind wenige Menschen, wirklich wenige Menschen. Und die haben keine Ambitionen, um Weltherrschaft zu erlangen, wie ihnen zugesprochen wird. Das sind eigentlich rein militärische Aspekte, also militärisch-politisch. Da fragt es sich immer, wer dann von den Militären ans Ruder kommt, wer die Macht ergreifen kann und was dann daraus geschieht. Nein, das ist an und für sich keine Bedrohung. Was die Bedrohung ist, das ist das Militär selbst mit ihren kriegerischen Handlungen.
At the very end of the film, The Silent Revolution of Truth, there's a puzzling photograph of Billy Meyer taken in India in 1964. The reporter who saw it and many of Meyer's earliest UFO photos taken at the time mentions the photograph in this article from the New Delhi Statesman newspaper. Taken with a Kodak Bellows camera made in the late 1940s, this clear daylight photograph shows Meyer sitting on the ground with a white cross in the sky above his head. We are told that the cross was actually a hologram generated by Asket, Meyer's extraterrestrial teacher at the time. The clue to the meaning of the photograph may be found in the information pertaining to Emmanuel, the prophet whose name was falsely changed to Jesus Christ, a man who never existed at all. The true story of Emmanuel reveals that while he was indeed crucified, he survived the crucifixion and, along with various family members and friends, ultimately made his way to India, where he lived, married an Indian woman who bore him numerous descendants, and where he died at well over 100 years of age. In fact, there is much information about a tomb and a shrine built around it in Srinagar, India, where a prophet was once buried who bore crucifixion marks on his feet. Our mission is to spread the truth about the creation and the spiritual teaching, knowing that we carry out our duty with modesty, in solidarity with, and respect for all life, seeking friendship and treating each member of humankind with equality.
That's a short piece from the film. It's over an hour long, and there's special features where Meyer also spoke about Obama before the election last year, and he also gave more information about the movements of the different countries into the Arctic, which he first published in 1987, and it's happening now. Something that may interest you, hopefully, is to know that from this information, your very distant ancestors were among the first space travelers millions of years ago from another star system. As a matter of fact, only 26,000 years ago was the last colonization of the progenitors of the Asian races here on Earth. And one of the reasons we have these disc-shaped objects, formerly called UFOs, is because they are part of the cellular memory of many people from very past lives who will once again be interested when they see those shapes and start to learn the information that we will advance with. We refer to the Meyer case as the key to our future survival, because if you take the scientific information, of which there are now hundreds of examples, and you understand that there is somebody who is very knowledgeable, proving their existence without landing, then maybe we human beings will look at the information that they want us to consider to help us assure our own future survival. If anybody has a question.
It's Q&A time now.
有冇問題？好，後邊。
The hologram picture, is it showing that Billy did contact the prophets before, and are they related to that religion?
Let me explain this as best I can. For the extraterrestrials and Billy, reincarnation is a fact of life. It's not a belief. Billy's spirit is the same spirit as the 6 prophets before him. We'll see if we get a translation on that. Once a person dies, the personality is gone, but the spirit reincarnates millions of times in the course of evolution. We've done this many times before.
He was asking, since the Chinese and the Japanese, they come from different planets, so does it mean the different races that we have on Earth means that we all come from different planets?
Some of the races have come from other star systems, and also some races naturally arise on a planet when it's ready for human life. So in some cases, mainly let's say with the white race that came from the stars, also there was a white race that arose here, and perhaps also a red race and a black race also came from the stars. I think it can be said that the Asian races originated from the stars and have since been incarnating here.
One of the audience correctly, he wanted to know about the crop circles and the meanings of those crop circles and how are they formed.
I always thought the crop circles must be extraterrestrial. The Playaran have said no, but it is a more abstract way of communicating. And the Playaran said, if there are extraterrestrials that want to communicate to you, they should communicate in a way that you can understand it without having to make interpretations. The landing tracks appeared on Billy's property as early as 1978 with the same technology of bending the grasses. Draw your own conclusion.
Like Billy said, he's meeting those outsiders every weekend, like he said from the film. And I was just wondering, can I just go pay him a visit, live with him for a month, so I can get a chance to meet those people as well?
Simple answer, no. Even most of his family members have never seen these people. And the reason is very simple. There's 1,300 people here, right? If you can go and meet the extraterrestrial, shouldn't everybody be able to if they want to? Then we have a circus. No work gets done. Everybody's shaking hands with somebody from the stars. It's not important to meet them. It's important to learn what they're telling us for our own thinking, to figure out whether it's valuable or not. They want us to learn how to think so that we can understand that our thoughts give rise to our feelings, give rise to thoughts, and then we act. Most of this is done from the unconscious level, automatically. They want us to become conscious of this process and take control of our lives. About 22 years ago, when I started my Qigong practice of standing, I had an experience that guided me to look at thinking and feeling. I created a workshop and I sent it to Billy, and he said, that's what we're talking about. Teach people how to do that so they can start to be fully responsible for themselves. So we put it on a DVD too, if you want. What we're working with is, there's a similarity to what Dominique said, and that is we want to bring that which is unconscious or subconscious into consciousness so we can make conscious choices about things that we are not conscious of that run us in life.
He was asking whether the Pleiadians has any information told Billy about December 21st, about the 3 darkest day, that kind of thing?
Yes. One thing is for sure. On December 21st, the next day will be December 22nd.
佢話喺12月21日之後咧，肯定嘅咧就係12月22日啦。
And it's true that there's an astronomical alignment, but the Mayan died out before they could make their next calendar. Interestingly enough, within the last 2 weeks, scientists discovered that the Mayan died out primarily because of droughts. You will find out that we already included Billy Meyer's information on that he learned 20 years ago. So, just like December 21st, if we are thinking about disaster, we create disaster. If we think about evolution and love and peace and harmony and freedom, I guess we're going to have to suffer through all that good stuff instead.
Are there any relations between the Christianity and the Pleiadians? The Christians and Pleiadians?
We explain in the film what happened. I'm only struggling to make a short answer so that you can look at the information, and there's a lot of free information on the website. Christianity was a creation of human beings, as was Judaism and Islam, and all the religions are created by people, not by the creation, not by the universe. No religions necessary, no beliefs, simply the age of belief, we leave it. We go into the age of truth and knowledge. We must figure it out ourselves. I would add something here a little different. Generally speaking, if the Asian world has access to this information and decides to investigate for itself, it will move faster than any other group in the world in the evolution. Question, this person here.
Since there are many assassinations and a lot of falsifying attacks against Billy Meyer, so would it be better for the Pleiadians to actually deliver the message to the mankind instead of delivering the message just to Billy Meyer?
No, because if we, first of all, you're hearing about Billy Meyer because he was the right person to give the information to, right? Second, if somebody comes down from the sky, we have more trouble. We have either we worship them or we attack them, but we won't learn. We will be too out of ourselves again. And this happened in the past too many times.
再俾掌聲啊，Michael Hong啊！
Thank you so much, Mr. Michael Hahn. You have done an excellent delivery of the alien messages.
Michael 想講一講咧，就話佢陣間咧會出去。